So tell me about Death Note.
Do I have to?
Yes, this was in your contract.
Damn you, fine print! It's not true, there was no fine print. The entire contract just said, talk about Death Note.
Yes.
So, I suppose we have to start by talking about the intro. The show has 2 intros. We'll talk about the awesome original intro, and then later on we'll move on to talking about the other one. So, the original intro to the show, boy do we have a lot to unpack. Let's just acknowledge right now, the music to the original intro is great.
No, it's not. It sounds like Japanese Good Charlotte. It's not that great.
Yeah, it sounds like Japanese Good Charlotte. It's amazing.
It's so emo.
Also, let's acknowledge that the animation is completely flawless in the original intro.
Except for the apple biting thing.
Okay, almost completely flawless. And that's where my praise of this show is going to end.
Oh boy.
And people are going to get upset because this show is the most loved thing in the entire anime community, and everyone thinks that this intro is amazing and deep and layered with meaning, and they're wrong.
Yeah, the emo weebs are going to come for your whole life.
They are. First, let's talk about the heavy Christian symbolism, which in this intro is glaring and completely garbled. You're going to see lots of references to apples, referring to original sin, and typically representing the Death Note, which the show is named after. This apple is handed down to our protagonist from a Shinigami in a recreation of Michelangelo's creation of Adam. You're going to see a lot of Michelangelo, by the way. And when you don't, get ready to see faux Renaissance art all over the place. It's not surprising if you're going for Christian symbolism, really, but it's still cringy.
Yeah.
The main issue I see in this symbology is that the intro can't decide whether the protagonist is God, Adam, Jesus, or a fallen angel.
Can't he be all of them?
No, he cannot be all of them. They're all different people. The protagonist looking down on the audience from above, that's godly references. Receiving the apple, that's Adam. Crown of thorns, Jesus. Imposed over a picture of Lucifer's fall to mimic Vitruvian man for some reason. Fallen angel with science, I think. Aloof hero offering his hand to a sinner. We're back to Jesus again. Taking the most poorly animated bite from an apple you could possibly manage. Either we're back to Adam now, or this intro was a really long shoot and he was hungry. Perhaps the idea is that the protagonist sees himself as some of the listed characters and that he's actually some of the others. Regardless, the message is unclear and jumbled.
Extremely.
But did you think this was the only person the intro would focus on? Oh, no. We have plenty of time to balls up our message about other characters. We also see a whole line of detectives looking confused about what's going on and inquisitive, as some of them even determined. Don't worry guys, I fall into the confused category.
I fall into the determined one.
Determined never to watch this ever again.
Exactly.
Spoiler alert, I didn't like this show. Think those detectives look pretty epic? Well, you're wrong, because half of them will be dead before you know more about them than their profession. Hey Mandy, who's Ide Hideki?
I don't know.
Point in case. The ones that do stay, yeah, they don't have any significant impact on the story at all.
Nah, not really.
But now let's contrast that with the lineup of Shinigami. These guys look pretty badass, right?
I sure do.
Yeah, only 3 of these characters are named.
Yeah, that's true.
Want to see more sections of the show with them? Well, tough luck, because they're not actually a part of the show. A lot of people are going to disagree with me about this and claim that they're central to the plot, but there are 7 minutes of the entire show spent in the Shinigami realm in total, and only 3 Shinigami ever come to the human world, so they're really not plot essential at all.
Yeah, and while they're there, most of the time they just kind of float around in the background.
Oh boy, do they. And spin in the worst animation you'll ever see. At the end of the day, if you cut them out of the show, I don't think people would notice.
Yeah, that's very true.
Mentioning Shinigami, see this guy? The gay clown? He's Vladimir Putin. So Vladimir Putin has the most badass scene in this intro. Don't get used to it though, you're never going to see him do anything interesting ever again. He just drifts around aimlessly and motionless.
And eats apples.
And eats apples, but that's pretty much the same thing, honestly.
Yeah, it's true.
Almost like making him do something in the intro was a huge undertaking for the animation team, and no one wanted to put that much work into this shitty show.
I mean, all he really did was kind of fuck off and leave some feathers behind.
It's pretty badass, though.
Oh, it's well done. It's well drawn for sure, but that's literally all he does. He just fucks off.
Yeah, and that's the most epic thing he ever does. I suppose this one time he does throw a tantrum and start twerking, but we'll talk about that later.
He was twerking on the bed.
We also get to see Michelangelo's Pieta, or a recreation of it. More Christian symbolism, unsurprisingly. So we're looking at Jesus and Mary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both of these characters are in a single episode in which they die. They're irrelevant to the plot.
Yeah, they really are. They don't contribute anything to the story at all.
This is what I mean about confused imagery. Weren't we going for the protagonist was symbolized as Jesus?
I don't know.
Nope, now it's this random guy. His name's Roy. And then there's this chick, stumbling around in the rain, looking for her pimp.
She kinda does look like a hooker, though.
Oh, and there's her pimp. Also, there's a wind tunnel scene. Our protagonist is fighting against the wind in a wind tunnel, which doesn't fit with the rest of the imagery we went with, but okay. But then pan to see that in the wind tunnel is his greatest rival. And now they're both standing unimpeded in the wind tunnel while the wind rushes around them. So the wind is some kind of outside force, which affects our protagonist sometimes and never affects his rival.
God? I'm gonna go with God here.
No, because the protagonist was God.
Yeah, but so was the dead guy named Roy.
No, Roy Penver is Jesus.
Isn't that also supposed to be God, though?
Only when he's combined with the Holy Spirit.
Okay, the Bible's starting to sound more like an anime than Death Note now.
This intro is just a constant barrage of mixed metaphors and misleading implications about what you're going to see. Hey Mandy?
Yeah?
Did I miss anything in this first intro?
I can't think of anything.
I must have missed something because there's so much to unpack. I'm drowning in peanuts right now.
Peanuts.
Not packing peanuts, I just stopped for snacks while my boss was out of the room.
I'm still here. I'm still in the room.
Don't tell my boss! I'm eating peanuts!
I can see you right now.
Somehow this metaphor was still more consistent than the intro. Okay, on to intro number 2. This is not the objectively better intro, but this is the only thing that kept us going through the second half of the show, to be perfectly honest.
It's so true.
Hey Mandy, where did you grow up? So, remember all of that Christian symbolism that we used in the first intro, which was implied to be really important to the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, we ditched that for this intro. Instead, you get to see the protagonist doing this, oh my god, the wave face! Next up, you get to see our protagonist's rival spinning around and eating candy. Personally, I think this is kind of taunting your audience, since this intro doesn't start until after he dies.
It's true. It's awful.
Spoiler alert, guys. The ultimate rival dies halfway through the show. We'll get to that later. Then we have Vladimir Putin chasing an apple. So, let's talk about that Christian symbolism again. The apple, which is the Death Note and also original sin, is being chased by Vladimir Putin, who is the devil and also God.
Yes.
So that means that God or the devil is chasing the Death Note or original sin, and then he catches it and dances.
Yep.
People tell me this show is symbolic genius.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe I'm missing the point though. Maybe it's just about Vladimir Putin liking apples.
I mean, that's what they keep saying in the show.
Then it's time to introduce more irrelevant characters again. Here's a bunch of detectives. They don't contribute to the plot at all. They're just kinda there.
Yeah, it's true.
This one has a Jufro, until he doesn't.
That's the only thing that we recognize about him, too. After he shaves off his Jufro, I keep forgetting who he is.
There's this hooker chick again. She's basically not in the show anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I believe she only speaks in 2 scenes after they start start using this intro.
Yeah, and they really dumbed her down for some reason, too.
She lost all her personality.
Yeah.
You remember when she used to be this wicked emo goth chick?
Yeah.
What happened to that?
Now she's just a dumb blonde.
Yup. But we get to see her in her underwear in that section of shows, so I guess that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind that.
Here's some rad karate moves. It's actually pulled from a pretty cool scene in the show, but it only ever happens once, so don't expect to see anything cool ever happen in the show again.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why they advertise this as something that happens in the show all the time.
Because everything in the intro that's advertised as being interesting doesn't actually happen.
Or only happens once.
Or only happens once. Remember that cool section in this particular intro where a sniper shoots? That doesn't happen.
No.
Well, that's not true. It does happen, but rather than shooting a Shinigami who catches the bullet, which is what happens in the intro and is really cool, he instead shoots the tire of a car and it has to pull over, which is less cool. And then he gives him a speeding ticket,
Yup.
which is not very cool.
Then he has to show up in court in 3 to 5 business days.
Which was really uncool. And then it's time to watch our protagonist walk through an almost empty city, passing by people that aren't relevant to the show at all.
Except for, like, one. He's just the new L replacement.
I would like to disagree that any of these people are relevant to the show, and I will go through them one by one to prove it.
Oh boy.
This guy's a prosecutor. His first appearance is in episode 31 of 37. Somehow he makes it into the Wikipedia list of main characters. This character is Kiyomi Takeda. Mandy, who's Kiyomi Takeda?
I don't know.
Yeah, neither do I. Her first appearance is in episode 31 of 37. I'm sensing a pattern here. This guy's a criminal. He's a big deal in the show, despite being completely irrelevant to the plot. His buddy Matt is the fan favourite for some reason, despite having, and this is true, only 5 lines of dialogue in the entire show.
Oh my god.
This guy's Nia. It's pretty much universally agreed that he's an 11-hour villain in the show.
Yeah, he really is.
But he's introduced way before any of the other characters I just listed.
Yeah.
Okay, Mandy, it's time for your favourite part of the intro.
It's the part where they just yell fuck.
I was hoping you would do it. Okay, did I miss anything in the second intro?
No, that sounds about right.
Thank God. That's part 1 covered for this show. Mandy, that was part 1. All I've done is a brief description of the intro.
Dear God, what have you done?
We just covered 2.5 minutes of the show.
What are we in for exactly, Dylan?
We have 36 episodes to go.
Jesus Christ.